Welcome to the Head Shepherd podcast. I'm your host, Mark Ferguson, CEO here at NextGen Agri International, where we help livestock managers get the best out of their stock. Before we get started, thank you to our two fantastic sponsors for continuing to sponsor this podcast. MSD Animal Health is perhaps better known as Cooper's Animal Health in Australia and for their Allflex range across the world, with a comprehensive suite of animal health and management products. Honiger is a one-stop shop for wool harvesting and animal fibre removal. The Honiger team have a deep understanding of livestock agriculture, backed by Swiss engineering and a family business dedicated to manufacturing the best. We are grateful to our sponsors for their support, helping us bring Head Shepherd to you each week. And now it's time to get on with this week's episode. Welcome back to Head Shepherd. Great to have you listening along. You're with Ferg. This week it's a bit of a blast from the past for me, and we're interviewing Jeremy Hutchings, and it'd be almost to the day 30 years ago that Hutch and I ended up both at Melbourne University together studying ag science. And so 30 years on, we're doing different things, but Hutch is the managing director of Farm Owners Academy, a business which is 100% focused on helping farm businesses get to their best, and there's a whole heap of great things that group have been doing, and Hutch is now leading the show there, and it's a great interview to talk through what that business does. So really great to have to reconnect with Hutch 30 years on from originally meeting. Before we get into that, Phoebe Eckerman, otherwise known as Eckers in our team, has written an article this week for The Hub called Selecting the Right Bull, talks through all the attributes of making good bull selections. We're obviously leading into bull sales the next few months across both sides of the ditch, so a good opportunity to remind yourself of what you should be looking for, and get in touch with Phoebe if you've got any questions on that front. While we're on that angle, I should mention we're off to the World Angus Forum, the on-farm bit in Tamworth. We've been invited as the podcast to record live from there, so that's going to be a great event. They're expecting big things, so make sure you look that up and find when that is. I think that's in May, and it's going to be a great event, and it's going to be great for us to be there as Head Shepherd, and NextGen Agri will be well represented, so hope to catch up with lots of beef breeders there. And then this week, it's awesome to be launching LambX in 2026. So it was a great event in 2024. We've just announced the dates of 8th to 10th of July 2026 back in Adelaide. Fantastic venue there at the conference centre. I've just got back from there, actually. I've been elected onto the task force for LambX, and we've had our first in-person meeting to sort of start the planning process for the sheep industry of Australia and globally. We're hoping to get lots of international visits as well. So if you've got an Australian visit sort of considering in the next 18 months to 2 years, that would be a great event to plan that around. So really looking forward to watching that evolve over the next 18 months or so. And then finally, another quick mention of OptiU, our training course, which is based on group learning. I'm looking to run some pilot groups in New Zealand in the next few months. So if that's something that interests you, get in touch with us here at NextGen Agri or email emma@nextgenagri.com. Right, we'll get on with the show and have a great chat with Hutch. Cheers. Welcome back to Head Shepherd. A bit of a blast from the past today. We're welcoming Jerry Hutchings to the show. Welcome, Hutch.
G'day, Ferg. Good to see you, mate.
Great to see you too. And one of the maybe a little known fact is that you and I ended up at the same university a million years ago, and as young 18-year-olds wandered into Melbourne. Probably, I don't know, I know I was well out of my depth in the big smoke, and you probably were similar. So, but we seemed to find a few pubs around locally to get through that 4 years at uni.
I feel like we should be drinking $1 pots and having a hot dog or something, Ferg. This is an absolute blast from the past.
We should be doing this at midnight, that's for sure. But so it was good times back then, and obviously, long time ago now, but probably a nice little foundation for both of us. Learned a few things from Billy Malcolm while we're sitting in those lecture theatres in Melbourne.
He still refused to mark my thesis on benchmarking, so he and I, as much respect as I have for Bill, we still don't agree on the value of benchmarking probably 40 or 50, 30 years later.
Well, there's a good thing about one thing about a bloke, he won't change his mind rapidly. So.
No, he will not change his mind.
Excellent. Before we, you're now managing director at Farm Owners Academy, and we're really keen to explore that story. And but before we get to that. I'd be keen to just work out what you've been doing between University of Melbourne Ag Science and FOA. What was a bit of consulting and always in ag, obviously, but it'd be good to just get that backstory.
Thanks, Ferg. Yeah, so Dad always said that university is the best time of your life. And what that sort of meant to me when I was at uni is, how can life get worse from where I am? But I reflect now that he's pretty accurate. Like, they were great times, all care, no responsibility. But yeah, great to have that as a base. I think launching into an ag career is to do ag studies, and we'll always value that. Mate, I left uni and got a cadetship with Elders, and incredible to sort of do a in-house MBA with Elders and travel around Australia doing kind of one-off projects in their live export, finance, merchandise, grain trading, wool marketing division. So just bounced around, and every sort of 6 months we'd arrive back to the boardroom and study for a week, and then jump in our car on a plane and disappear off to another part of Australia to do a sort of a business improvement project. It was a great 2 years and just gave me great exposure to lots of components of this diverse industry. After a few years, went into finance in Sydney, lasted a little while, didn't feel like suits and high-rises were for me. I wanted to get back into the country and deal with real people and real problems and help families. And so went farm consulting, moved to Bendigo with O'Callaghan Rural Management and Mike Stevens and Associates, and got involved in the Farm Management 500 project, a network of really compelling farm consultants working collaboratively to help farmers better perform. And it was a great base learning. I really enjoyed sort of getting on farm and really sort of sharpening that consultancy skill set. Moved up, or helped one of those firms move up into New South Wales, and that was our chance to move back to Cootamundra, where my wife and I sort of have hailed from. And then, mate, after 15 years of farm consulting, I stumbled upon this thing called business coaching. And it wasn't in regional Australia, and I felt like that there was quite a bit of help for farming families through agronomists and advisors. But if you look into the regional towns like Wagga and Bendigo and Albury, there was no one really helping small businesses. And business coaching was my opportunity to kind of lean in and throw my support to the small businesses across regional Australia. So I sort of determined to help bring business coaching into regional Australia, and did that for 12 years. And then discovered that a great mate of mine, Robbo, had launched this thing called Farm Owners Academy, and he and Greg and a small team were bringing business coaching into agriculture. And I sent Robbo a text saying, I love what you're doing. Let me know if you need a hand. And he texted me back saying, congratulations, you're our CEO. It was the world's shortest interview. But just feel like my planets have aligned. I now get to live on a wonderful farm and bring business coaching into agriculture with an amazing team. This project is really special and really significant, and I'm really proud of what we're now doing.
Yeah, fantastic. And yeah, we'll go there now around what Farm Owners is. And while we're mentioning that, we should give you a big cheers for the Profitable Farmer podcast, which you've been rolling out for 7 or 8 years, which is fantastic. And I know there's a few people that listen to both of our podcasts, so we shout out to all those guys that get to listen to us together for an episode. But it's fantastic to all the getting that great information out there and all the good things that Farm Owners Academy are doing. We sort of intersect with a fair few of your crew, and they're always a completely different mindset when you come across a graduate of the program or someone that's still involved. The mindset shift that is so needed in ag is very clear in those crew. Maybe for those out there who haven't sort of stumbled across Farm Owners, just sort of walk us through a little bit about the guts of what that program does.
Thanks, Ferg, appreciate that comment, and likewise your podcast and the impact that your consultancy is having is really getting momentum, mate, and we always enjoy when our members arrive and they're clients of yours. Mate, Farm Owners Academy we see ourselves as business educators and business coaches to farming families. In farming, a lot of us haven't learned. We've learned a lot of technical skills and we're great technically, like a surgeon is great technically, but often in that surgeon's training, they never learn business. I had a mate who was a surgeon who didn't know that he hadn't invoiced the local hospital 170 grand. Like he got 3 hours, lectures, a 3-hour lecture on business in his 16 years of training. And I reflect that almost farming's similar. Like so much of the training is technical, but a lot of us haven't learned a lot of the key constructs on how to grow and successfully build a sustainable company. So, yeah, mate, we teach around strategy, finance, leadership, systems, time management, and as you mentioned, the personal development, the mindset and the entrepreneur training that I think that we get to bring into agriculture is world-class. It's based on a lot of the teaching and the learning that Robbo and I have, and Greg and Tracy and the broader team have been able to collect from studying outside of the industry. But, it combines to help farming families make significant and really meaningful change in how they align towards a common goal and then go after significant growth and learn entrepreneurship and business at the next level and apply it really strongly to their farm businesses.
Cool. One of the strongest thing, at least from the outside, is one of its, I guess, the aspect that maybe one of its superpowers is it's not just teaching, it's teaching plus network. And we all know that we love that humans learn best, or farmers learn best from other farmers and same. And I guess having that support network is a key part of the sort of structure, and something that I see is got to be listed as one of the success factors anyway.
I find it really interesting that when you think about the average accounting firm, for example, they rarely get their clients together and their clients don't know each other. I find that really interesting. What I love that we've created is a mastermind group. And the most successful business minds of history have knowingly or unknowingly been part of a mastermind and attributed their success to being part of a collective of high performers. It works in sport, and in the same way it works in agriculture or business, I think. We've got an incredible community of over 250 businesses all on the same journey, passionate about learning and growing their business, and they actively support each other's success. And in addition, we've got over 100 members in our alumni. So when we get together now, it's 550 plus businesses that come together. And when you get that wisdom in a room, all willing to share and support each other's growth without judgment and without ego, it is a pretty powerful thing. I'm just blown away by the significance of the community that we're lucky enough to have created.
Yeah, it's awesome. If we sort of distill down, I don't know if you talk us through an average experience, but I mean, you will have witnessed hundreds of farming families go through those programs. But yeah, I mean, what are the sort of most powerful transformations that you've seen, or a few examples maybe, or anyone that listens to your podcast will have heard those examples. But yeah, there's some significant shift in businesses that you've been able to achieve.
It's a great question, mate. So when businesses start with us, or farming families sort of come along to start with us, often they don't know their numbers strongly enough. They've never benchmarked, and they don't understand how to analyse the strength of the business of their farm. You know, they might do a budget for the bank, but they don't use it to underpin really strong decisions around direction. Often one of them or two of them might have a plan in their head, but they're not aligned to a common plan. And so that can bring tension into family and farm business relationships, which often gets thrown into the succession pot. I think a lot of us have built farms that are completely dependent on us, that if something was to happen to us, that the farm would struggle to continue. I love the idea that the definition of a successful business is something that is profitable and structured and resourced so that it can work for me, not me for it. And businesses are meant to work for us. So I guess the journey that we take people on is to get their head right and start to think about their farms not as farmers but as entrepreneurs or business people. They are really complex businesses and we need to treat them as such. But there's learning on how to think and act like a CEO. Then we help people nail the numbers. Then we help them get clear on a 3-page, really focused plan that they can bring their family around, that has a vision and a 10-year goal and 3-year goals and really clear milestones on how we're going to move the business forward. Then we help people analyse growth decisions. We help people learn how to optimise the resources and the assets that they have. We help them systemise and structure their farm to take it kind of from amateur to professional. And then we help people work out how to recruit and retain talent and then lead a positive team. Once you've done that, then you can think about scaling up. And so we teach people how to analyse growth decisions. And after that, we help people work out their tactics and strategies to build balance sheet growth. So that includes looking at complementary businesses and looking at how to invest successfully off farm so that you can start setting up for things like succession with off farm family and retirement and intergenerational change. And Ferg, just one more comment around that is that if you take a really professional approach to business improvement on farm, I reckon succession is more easily achieved. And so there's a set process and a set method to build a successful company. We teach people that, and an outcome that I love seeing is that families are more aligned and succession can be more likely to be successful for having gone on that journey. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, no, thanks, mate. It certainly does. And yeah, I guess that the succession word is always one of those challenging things, but you can see how having clarity and having such structure, like a lot more structure, helps that conversation. I think humans are generally pretty protective of their little patch, and we see that across everything. How do you encourage sort of people? I mean, farmers, humans, people don't like sharing their information that much, but obviously you managed to create an environment where people feel safe to share kind of information with not just their coaches, but also other farming families that are sort of on those calls or in those rooms.
We certainly don't overdo that early. We've got to build that trust.
Yeah.
So when people start with us, we analyse their business and we help them analyse their business in a different way.
Yeah, right.
And then we meet with them in a one-on-one format and make sure that we've helped them sort of get to know their reality and then build a robust plan. They go through the 3-year journey with us in a mastermind group with 5 other businesses. So when we feel they're ready, we put them into a group so that they go on that journey almost like with a little board of advisors where there is that circle of trust. And people are willing to be open and vulnerable in a small group with other farmers who are kind of committing to confidentiality and to sharing equally back with them their issues. And each of those mastermind groups is led and facilitated by one of our coaches who, it's one of our core values is that we are respectful and non-judgmental towards people that we support. And I think people come into our community perhaps having felt really isolated and like they're going it on their own, and business and farming can be a very lonely place. So we actually find that when people arrive into that safe environment, that they are more than willing to sort of start naming their challenges and naming their issues and then getting the right people around them to support.
Cool. When did you, I'm just intrigued about, when we were sitting drinking dollar pots back at Norton's, I'm pretty comfortable that this wasn't your mindset around agriculture. What are you, in your personal journey, how do you think was there any sort of big light bulb moments, or has it just been a sort of growth of, I guess, seeing different businesses and challenging yourself to be better as well? Or what's the evolution of Hutch look like?
Thanks, mate. I appreciate your question. I reflect back that I was a bit of a collar up wanker and know-it-all back in the day. Like just it's funny, isn't it, how we grow up. And I had to let go of a lot of conditioning. But I think that all kind of happened for me when I stumbled upon business coaching. The mindset and the entrepreneurial training and kind of the business and personal development journey that I got exposed to when I started learning how to be a coach was amazing. I sort of it felt absolutely spot on to lean into some of those constructs. I think our schools and our unis 20 and 30 years ago didn't teach or talk about growth mindset versus fixed mindset. And certainly at the school I went to, there was no talk around how to be a great leader and how to think critically and think independently around personal development. So I love that our kids are learning this stuff now at school, but it wasn't the narrative. Yeah, mate, it all kind of arrived to me when I started leaning into coaching. And I love the fact that now our farming community is really open to this and really kind of actively embracing the personal development journey as at least as much as the business development journey.
Yeah, I think it's so true. And I think obviously the format has changed. They don't have to pick up the Weekly Times to get information these days. They can listen to one of us in their ear, or there's just such a different world. But it is great to see that ag is embracing it, and we're willing to accept that we need coaches in our lives to get better. And regardless of whether you're a genetics consultant or a farming coach, we all need to keep bettering ourselves and finding ways and finding people that will help us do that. I guess if we talk currently, it's been a relatively tough period out there in ag. I don't like talking about tough periods, but there's certainly been challenging in livestock, sheep particularly over the last few years. What's the FOA community sort of? Are they doing anything differently at the moment, or is it sort of do the basic stuff really well as would be normally the case?
Great question. So there's no doubt that there are parts of Southeast Australia, perhaps in particular in the last 12 months, that have been in a 1 in 100 or at least a decile 1 environment and been really challenged. And for many, that's on the back of, a short-term price collapse, which really challenged people just over 12 months ago, Ferg. Yeah. So, yeah, I think your comment's right. I guess my response probably would be that there's no silver bullet, is there? And it's the little things done well that we're focusing on, making sure people are really analysing the strength of their business models and doing that through benchmarking and then looking at each of their enterprises and looking at, are they stacking up as profitable enterprises in their own right, and do we need to make meaningful change to how we're sort of optimising the enterprises that we're running on our farms? We're making sure that people are right across their numbers and that they're really proactive in their modelling and their forecasting, and that they're having really proactive discussions with financiers and suppliers and negotiating where they need to. Just reflecting back a little bit further, I think we were in a purple patch, weren't we, where interest rates were low, prices were good, and, I think there are a lot of farmers out there that might have made some either really significant growth decisions or some pretty average decisions about minimising tax or whatever, which meant that some haven't set up and created a buffer in order to handle this tougher climate. But the reality is we're back to long-term average interest rates. They're not high.
Yeah.
And terms of trade are still okay if you're pursuing being in the top 20% of your industry. But yeah, I guess I hope that answers your question, but we aren't focusing on any other things than really stress testing our business models and taking complete ownership of our plans and our numbers.
Yeah, cool. Weather permitting, we should be sailing into, this is in livestock, not which is where I focus my attention. So it's not about grain farmers out there, but the predictions have been pretty strong for a long time, that we're going into a couple of years of really fairly strong prices, and we've already seen that in beef and sheep, certainly a fair uptick lately, and looks like will continue. I guess, what are you, in terms of coaching, this is the time to get ready for the next downturn, I suppose. And so that's, I think we need to be as livestock businesses getting, if things do go well and if the weather permits it, there should be some time to actually put some of those processes in place to actually set ourselves up for the next time where it's a bit tough.
I think benchmarking's key. And when I say benchmarking, I think benchmarking is misunderstood. It's not about comparing yourself to your neighbour. It's about analysing the strength of your farm's performance compared to previous years against a key set of ratios that we should all be targeting.
Yeah.
In a decile 5 environment, our farms should be able to achieve a 20% business profit relative to income and a 30% business profit and a 20% net profit after interest. And there's a host of other metrics that our businesses should be stress tested against. So I think the key thing I would encourage people to do is to make sure that you're clear on how to analyse the performance of your business and how it has performed over the last 3 to 5 years. And then through that, focus in on making sure that you're proactive in making those ratios work. And then setting down a really clear strategic plan that will take you in that direction. There are technical ratios around our livestock enterprises that we've got to be hitting, like weaning percentage and stocking rate and other. But there's also some really important business ratios around overheads and cost structures and asset utilisation and, profitability that we need to be making sure that we've got the ability with our business models to hit.
Yeah, I think we all know the reality that purple patch did lead to a bit of a cost of production blowout, and you could kind of get away with maybe less efficient decision making or less efficiency generally, and that's what had left some people in a bit of strife when all the things went the other direction, and we need to just good points around getting those ratios right and really knowing those. And I won't pretend to quote them anywhere near as well as you can, because that's not what we do. But I think I don't know. I'm pretty excited about what the next few years look like in livestock agriculture, and hopefully the weather will play its game and at least give us a decile 5, and that'd be awesome. You're now farming with your wife in Cootamundra there. Is there anything, I guess, is it like the mechanic's car, or have you got a pretty humming farm business there?
Can we stop recording now? So we took this farm on 15 years ago. It's my wife's family's farm, and we leased it out because both our focus was off farm and on family, and we took it back on actively. This is our 5th season. And so there is a little bit of that mechanic's car reality. I don't profess for a moment that my farm is a pin-up example of what can be achieved, but we are absolutely sort of disciplined around applying what we teach. And it's the improvements we've made over that time are excellent, but just like a lot of people, it's a journey for us probably over our next 10 years to really go about achieving the goals that we've set down as a family. I guess linked to that, what I'm really proud about with FOA is that business really practices what it preaches. And I guess it is a great example of how to plan well, how to know your numbers well, how to set systems down, and how to have and lead a high-performing team. The principles that we teach do work for farming at least as much as they do for business. And so, the farm's still got a way to go, but I'm probably more proud about how the FOA team, do apply to the letter what we teach to our clients.
Excellent. If we fast forward another 7 or 8 years, so in terms of FOA, how do you see that evolving? Do you think the model will change as we get a different generation of farmers coming through, I guess in a growth mindset, the growth should be infinite in terms of where it can go and what it can do for ag?
So I've been with FOA for 6 years, and the team's grown from 5 to I think 28 or more now. And our project seems to be getting its own momentum now, which is wonderful. It is adding value, I think, in the industry, and we're proud of that. We're determined not to be distracted by going overseas or growth for growth's sake. We're really determined as a team to continue to add value and focus on helping farming families in Australia. That will continue to be our focus, Ferg. And so it's more of the same for us, and just continuing to help farming families really nail it for themselves. So the community will grow, the team will continue to grow. I think like any industry, there's disruptions happening, and I guess we'll be really alert to technologies like AI perhaps that we need to embrace so that we can do things better and more efficiently and support more people in a more efficient way. But I'm really excited about the future for our business, but I'm at least as excited about the next sort of 7 to 10 years for the industry, as you mentioned. My only other comment to that is I love the fact that we've got 18-year-olds coming along and going through our programs with their parents and their grandparents. And I think that's really unique. Like I could go off to ag college and do a degree and then come back as a young person and try and change the farm and improve the farm. That might get a result. But I guess what I love about FOA is that we've got multiple generations going on the journey together, and that's really powerful. And I also love the fact that 50% of the people in our conferences and our client base are the women of agriculture. And that's different to a lot of other courses and a lot of other conferences in agriculture. And I guess the impact that husband and wife teams across multiple generations are having when they focus on driving their farm businesses together, it is incredible. So more of the same, hopefully, with minor refinement.
Yeah, and hats off to that 50% stat. That's awesome. Like we've all been to, well, probably not you recently because you're an FOA, but the rest of us go to conferences and meetings and whatever where it's at least 80% blokes, and the average age is probably up as well compared to what your crew is. And yeah, I think that, and we see it firsthand when we interact with people that have gone through FA or doing FOA. When you've got both parts of the business in the same mindset, it's ridiculously powerful, and I think that's a key success factor.
Yeah, and this is a stereotype, but it used to be that the wife would come home to the family farm and do the books.
Yeah.
And maybe we completely underestimated, as a generalisation, the impact that women in agriculture can have on the growth of farming businesses. We see our women in agriculture, and a shout out to you all, putting the hand up to be the CEO, the CFO, head of HR, and leaning in and being one of the key reasons why so many of our businesses are shooting the lights out and achieving really significant things, because they're the off-farm partner has so much to offer the success of a business if you take a good business approach to how you improve.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that alignment is massive. Right, mate. Well, we'll save the rest of this chat for when we have got a Norton's pot in our hand. But one of the questions we ask everybody at the end of the show is, what's the last thing you change your mind about?
Wow. There are some people on this planet that are early adopters. So they queue up in queues to get the next version of the iPhone. I'm not that person. So I've over the years, I've collected old cars. I love old cars. A couple of years ago, I was looking for a Holden Statesman, and they seemed a bit expensive at the moment. So I accidentally stumbled upon a V12 1986 Jaguar Sovereign. I've always loved the old Jags. And I thought, gosh, these are going to be worth something down the track when we all move to electric cars. And here we are, as technology is embraced and we all move forward. I can't find anyone to work on this Jag, so I guess I'm changing my mind on that strategy of mine to own classic cars as a potential future investment.
Excellent, mate. Well, I've actually got I don't think Alistair Campbell will be listening, but he's gone from that strategy to racing race cars now at about just under 80. He's now bought all. But he certainly was collecting them for a while. But I imagine it's going to get increasingly difficult to find someone who knows how to fix a V12 Jag. But.
Totally.
Excellent. Thanks, mate. Really appreciate your time and all that you're doing at FOA. It's fantastic to be just to see its impact, and for long may it continue. And we definitely will have to catch up for a beer 30 odd years after the last one.
Likewise, Ferg, and great to connect. Thanks for the opportunity, and again, well done on all that you're doing in both and all of your projects. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, mate. And we'll put your links in the show notes so people can find Farm Owners Academy. If they just Google that, they'll find it anyway. And the Profitable Farmer podcast is your podcast, so they can listen to lots of those success stories and those people involved in your network. It's a great listen. I've listened to plenty of them myself as I'm driving around these two great countries that I get to work across. But thanks for your time, mate.
Pleasure, mate. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks again to Heineken, who are proud world leaders in the manufacturing and supply of professional sheep shearing and clipping equipment. Thank you to MNSD Animal Health and Norflex Livestock Intelligence. They offer an extensive livestock product portfolio focused on animal health management, all backed up by exceptional service. We thank both of these companies for their ongoing support of the Head Shepherd podcast.